Well, good morning. Mr. Walsh, I want to take a moment here and review the lesson we had yesterday. When we take a look at a golf swing here, we worked on a couple things here. The first two things we primarily focused on here was, one, your posture. When we look at the posture here, we can tell that the spine is curved on the right-hand side here, compared to when we looked later on in the lesson. Oh, wrong one here. There we go. Got a little bit better. Got a little better posture. You know, in this case here, you said you felt like you're sticking your rear end out just a little bit, kind of getting the weight up over the balls of the feet, but keeping that back just a little bit straighter. Big difference between these two here. Okay. So what we try to do initially, very simple, is try to get you in better posture there. But then two, we try to work on as well a better leg drive or a better pivot from the right-hand side to the left. Now, when we look here, what you're going to see here is you're going to see us make a good shoulder turn back to the right-hand side. We get the weight loaded up to the right side, but as you start your downswing, you can see the weight wanting to start to go, but never does successfully make it over to that left side. You can see an early release of the hands here, the bowing of the shaft in that case, because of the frames per second, like I said in the video. But what this allowed, because it's picking up the forward progression of the shaft, but in this case here, you've released your hands completely. You know, what we used as an example yesterday for you was Mr. Duffner here. As Duffner takes the club back, you can see a long, good, smooth takeaway, loads up to that right side, gets up to the top of his golf swing. Then as he starts to go from the right-hand side to the left side, you can see just a slight shift in the change. See the hips starting to turn, hands, elbows coming down into the side, weights pushing off the right side, hips are turning. And as that hip is turning, these hands are keeping in its position, staying down and through the shot. Now, when you see him make contact with the ball, you can see a big difference right here on where his hands are, where his arm is, let alone his hands. But you can see that the shaft in this case is still back here compared to yours, which is almost straight down and coming at the club, which showing that you've released all the energy, all the positions you had in the shot. Weight still back on this right side. You can see the body just essentially stay on the right and turn around that right leg with the weight body being at an angle here, whereas you can watch Mr. Duffner's right hip's turning to the right side, right knee is driving through, arms extend out, and then as he finishes, you can watch as his hands finish up at the top, he turns into that make-believe wall that we talked about here. You know, he turns into that position, makes a good, strong turn into that position here, compared to when you finish, you can tell that all your weight is still back on that right-hand side. So, obviously, the stance, what we worked on, was trying to get you in that position, which was a much better position as you went, and you kind of took right to that position, you know, time after time. But the second thing that we worked on, trying to get you into position, is the first thing I worked on was the ball drill. Simply taking a softball and turning back to the right-hand side as if you were swinging a golf club. So, see, I had you turn back. Hold on here. All right, just simply had you turn that right shoulder back behind the ball as if the ball was there, had the hands turned back, keeping that left arm straight, and then as you came down, I want you to feel the right hand, right elbow come into the side, right hip starting to turn into that left side, and you almost see it as you do this, but it's still a little bit more progression coming through. And that's essentially feeling like almost like you're trying to skip a rock. I told you I want you to think like you're skipping a rock. And even this position here is better. Not quite all the way where we'd like to see, but still a better position. Now this you could do at the shop, you could do at the office, turning back and through, turning into your door, turning into your desk, turning into a chair. But just simply making that turn from the right side, driving from the right side, turning to the left. Okay? What I said, we do 2 sets of 20 reps. Now the next position here as we look at this was with the golf club. And very simple, had you push back. Now before on a side note, we also talked about ball position. We talked about being just inside this left heel compared to 6 inches back or even in the middle where you discuss where you'd like to be at. You know, with the club being longer, we need to be able to swing back and swing through and allow that long shaft to be able to release through the ball out at the target. Now, that being said, when we look on the right-hand side, all I had you do, take a weighted golf club. As you turn back to the right-hand side, make a good shoulder turn back, keeping that left arm straight as possible, loading up on the right-hand side. Already a much better position than where we were right here, and I think a big position right there where you can tell the difference is right here. Look at the curvature of your spine right there. And we'll take it back here. No curvature of the spine. You know, big difference. Now you're turning around your body rather than turning it around and making manipulations in the swing because the spine has been curved. Okay? Now as you turn back, you've loaded up on this right-hand side, and all I want you to do with that weighted club, that will stop right there. Then the right elbow comes to the side. We start to drive with that right knee as we see there. Big difference right there at the point of impact compared to what we see right here. Left arm straight, everything follows through. We see that extension down and at the target. Much better, slow and controlled, just like you're working out. But the biggest part here is you can see you drove the weight, you got the weight off that right side, and you turned from the right to the left, getting that weight transferred through. And you can see a big difference, especially in these two positions. All right, look at the difference. Look at your follow through. You know, there's that turning in that wall per se in front of you. You can see a great turn, great position. So with the heavy club, like I said, I want 2 sets of 20 reps, if not 30 to 40 swings is what I'd like to see. Now, when you go to the range, the one thing I want you to work on, nice and slow, wanting to make a good transition, good turn back here, getting load up to the right-hand side. Now, what I'd like to see probably in this case is here, you see how that right knee's kind of bent? I'd like to see that right knee stay straighter, you know. That way it's kind of locked position instead of being bowed a little bit here. And that comes from you wanting to take it back even further and making a longer turn, which you don't necessarily have to do that. Like we said, slow and controlled, slow finish, slow position, down through. But even in this case, after 10 swings, you can still see a much better position right there compared to where you see the position on the left. You know, and this whole key thing here is, and I think, you know, with you playing the softball, the competitive baseball, you know, playing tennis for years, you're used to driving through very quickly, you know, but the key point there, when you're driving through, you still transferred your weight back and forth in those sports. And that's what we're trying to do to get you here, is be able to do a control, do it effectively, down and through the shot. So even with a regular golf ball or iron, golf club or iron, I just want you making the same move. You know, so 20 swings there, and then when you come to the golf club or when you come to the range, back and through, turning back to the right-hand side, getting loaded up on the right, then essentially turning through to the left. We see a much better, the hips could be turning a little bit more. That's why we see a separation in the left elbow, but still a much better position when we look here compared to what we see on the left-hand side. And like I said, well, all I wanted to see before is I wanted to see a change. And from what we see here, we do see a change. So what I like to say is, obviously, we worked on your posture, worked on your stance, and then second, we worked on a good weight transfer or turn through the ball. So if you have any questions, Jim, please feel free to give me a call, 314-724-6539, or shoot me an email at michaelwyattgolf@gmail.com. Thank you, sir.